we've been your job search besties and helped you in some way, there's a cool way you can support the show. Shout us a virtual coffee.
We get a huge kick out of reading all of your success stories. Head to buymeacoffee.com/interviewboss and shout us a cuppa.
If you keep us caffeinated, we can keep the content coming. We have trust issues. We don't trust anyone until we've looked at it for ourselves.
Yes. The employer doesn't have the consequences. Other people don't have the consequences. You are the one who won't be able to work.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Interview Boss. My name is Emma. I'm a radio journalist who's teamed up with my sister to give you advice, inspiration and support when you're looking for a new job. Sarah is a HR and recruitment professional, and together we're excited to give you all the tips, tricks and behind the scenes knowledge to help you in your career.
Hey Em, and welcome back everyone. It's time for our favourite part of the podcast, our Shoot Your Shot shout out. This is where we celebrate you guys, our incredible listeners. You've listened to the podcast, you've gone out there, used our advice, shot your shot, and you've got some updates to give us. This week we're shouting out Ruth, who very graciously and kindly shouted us a coffee. Thank you, Ruth.
Yes, Ruth is our friend from across the ditch, and she said, I'm so glad I found your podcast. Less than 24 hours before my job interview, I found you on a long drive to my friends to get my hair fixed. Yes, the day before an interview, last minute. I immediately found your way of talking easy to listen to and understand. Kiwi here. I loved your take on interviews, and by the return journey, I'd listened to the Best Bits episode and the pre-interview pep talk one too. I spent my evening scoping out 4 of my best bits and all the relevant question topics they could answer. I'd already prepped in my own way and also prepared a 10-minute presentation of a campaign as requested, but the best bits idea just unlocked something for me, and I knew I was going to do well. Instead of waiting for them to ask the right questions for me to share what I wanted, I just turned every question into talking about what I wanted to share. Sometimes it was a cheeky pivot, but they didn't seem to care. I had them grinning ear to ear, loving my best bits, and when I said my ideal salary at the end, they were just like, yes, makes sense. Before the day was out, they told me I was the preferred candidate. They checked my references, and Monday told me I'd gotten it, and they gave me the highest available salary for that position, only $3,000 shy of my pie in the sky ideal. There are many things I've done to get to this point to build my confidence after being self-employed for 8 years, but I honestly credit the cherry on top of feeling 100% ready that I was going to smash it was from you guys. Thank you so much. I finally feel that this mid-career pivot is paying off. Also, I'm telling all my friends to listen.
Oh, incredible. We love a Kiwi. Some people say like, oh yeah, do you get upset if you get mistaken for a Kiwi, or does a Kiwi think that about another? Excuse me?
No, they're our brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Like
same but different font.
Particularly if you were traveling or something, you're like, you basically are from the same country. It's the same thing. So we love our Kiwi brothers and sisters across the ditch. Also, my favorite part of that story is that Ruth was already the kind of person who had done all this prep and already seems like she knew what she was doing. She's not a newbie to this whole interview situation. She might have had a bit of a career pivot and, is dealing with some career stuff, but she already knew what she was doing and still took it to the next level with the best bits. I just love that so much. I wonder what her interview would have been like if she didn't hear that and she's just waiting and hearing a question and like thinking, oh, I have to quickly respond to that. Oh no, I didn't prepare for that question, versus going, how do I do these little cheeky pivots? And it worked. I love it.
We're for everyone, the people that have no idea what they're doing and need to use every single tip we've ever given. And there's the other camp of people who are already pretty confident but just need a few little tips to help level up. And that's exactly what Ruth did.
And sometimes it's just a bit of a reminder as well, like, oh yeah, okay, I'm on the right track. Like I am doing the right things. And a bit of encouragement, like that pre-interview episode. Cool. Now, if you are not quite as independent as Ruth and you maybe need a little bit more guidance because you understand the best bits concept, but how on earth are you meant to come up with them? How many do you need? How on earth do you structure them? They don't sound right when I'm doing them as answers. You might need a little bit more help. You can check out Interview Academy or my one-on-one coaching sessions, and you can find out which one's right for you, interviewboss.com.au/coaching, to compare them and book the one that you think you need. Interview Academy you can get access to straight away. One-on-one sessions, you do have to find a time slot that overlaps with me. There are lots of them though. I meet with people all around the world, but yeah, check it out if you need more help.
As always, if you liked an episode or used a tip that we sent you or want to request an episode on your specific conundrum, kindly follow us on Instagram, slide into our DMs, and we could dedicate a whole ass episode to you, which is what we're doing this week. A listener, Rowie, wrote into us and said, Emma and Sarah, this is a long deferred message that I've been meaning to send you guys for quite some time, ever since I discovered your podcast. I'll temporarily table the story that is sure to send both you and your loyal listeners jaw-dropped with the series of events that unfolded in my latest interview fiasco. Details are still pending.
I could tell we would be friends.
So good. Details are still pending, but I will happily share the story once the final verdict is in. Sidestepping this temporarily, I've been seriously considering relocating to Oz for quite some time and actually had some recruitment-based questions for Sarah. As a Canadian, obtaining a work holiday visa in Australia is fairly easy. However, I'm of the understanding that getting a look at corporate jobs is quite difficult as they're mandated to prioritise homegrown talent. Beyond that, I believe I'm not allowed to work for the same employer for more than 6 months, which wouldn't make me an attractive candidate amongst a laundry list of other reasons. From what I gather, I would need to get sponsored from a company in order to be able to work there for beyond 6 months. So pretty much, I'm wondering if in your experience in HR and recruitment, if you would have any experience or insight into sponsorship of international hires. I know it's a tall ask, but what better way to break the ice? I seriously adore your podcast and am praying I have a happy ending to the story I alluded to in the beginning of this message, even if it's not worth sharing because boy, it was a blunder. Thanks for all your incredible tips, nuggets, and insights, and much looking forward to hearing from you. All my best, Rowie.
I really need to know this story now. I was thinking this as I was preparing this episode of like, I really need to ask what the story was. I need to hear it. I really, really need to hear it. And maybe if we hear back, we'll do a follow-up in another episode of what the actual story is. But what a great question. And this kind of reminded me like, wow, how haven't we done an episode on this before? We've kind of touched on like getting a job in a new country or like moving cities. We've talked about a little bit of that before, but not necessarily like a deep dive into sponsorship. So I think it's a great one. Now, a bit of context. I am obviously coming from the context of having lived and worked in Australia. I dealt in depth a lot with sponsorship. So a lot of the terminology and stuff will be from Australia specific, people coming to Australia. But I am also an Australian currently in Canada, and I have a pretty loose familiarity with how these things tend to work around the world as well, because I've worked in international companies where we had people come from other countries to Australia as well and go from Australia to other countries. So I've got a bit of an understanding, but you need to kind of translate this for your own situation, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
So, tip 1, we need to do our research.
Yeah, I think this is like if you stopped at 1, just stop at this one. Like have this be your be all end all. Research, research, research. You want to be really clear on what your visa allows you to do and what it doesn't. So in the message, I think Rowie kind of said, from what I gather, or like I think I can only work for 6 months. You need to be sure on that stuff. You need to be really, really clear on what you can do and what you can't. And look, maybe she is, but I think a lot of people kind of rely on workplaces to go, oh, can I do that? Or, oh, can I whatever? Workplaces and companies might not always know, or maybe the person you're dealing with might not know. And also, nobody's going to pop up at the exact time to say, hey, you've worked 6 months and 1 day for this employer. Like maybe the employer's on top of it and they'll get onto it, but nobody's going to pop up and arrest you on the day that you're like doing.
It'll all catch up to you later.
That's exactly right. And maybe there's no consequences later, but if you suddenly try and apply to stay longer in the country and they go, great, show us where you've been working. And you're like, oh, I've worked for the same employer for 12 months, even though I wasn't meant to. Like, do you know what I mean?
You've got to take your own destiny into your own hands. Don't be like me, who recently was on a big 6-week overseas holiday. And when I was due to fly from the US to Canada in 24 hours, I tried to check into my flight and it wouldn't work. It would not let me check in. And upon doing some digging, I realized I need a visa to get into Canada. I did not have said visa. I didn't even consider that I needed one because I thought I was traveling within North America and surely it's all the same.
She's talking about a travel authorization, an ETA. So it's ESTA in the US and it's an ETA in Canada. I think technically it's like an exemption to having a visa.
Don't be like me and be sitting on a bench out the front of Target, frantically trying to fill it out on your mobile phone and praying to God that it doesn't take as long as it says in the disclaimer, which is this may take up to 36 hours to process.
Yep.
Spoiler alert, it came back instantly, but that was not a good time. So don't be like me and think, oh, no one told me about that. Do your own research.
Oh my gosh, I have stories. A girlfriend of mine was a colleague at the time. She was on a bridging visa. So there's probably different terminology for this all around the world, but let's say you're on some kind of a temporary visa and you apply for a more permanent visa or just a different one. Normally there's some kind of thing like maintained status, something like that, where you're allowed to keep working whilst they're making the decision and getting back to you. Because otherwise they'd have to like kick you out and then, oh, it's approved, you can come back. Like while you're waiting to hear back, you just get to stay and keep working. But in Australia, there's a bridging A visa and there's a bridging B visa. A, you cannot leave the country. And if you do, your bridging visa's gone, your application for that visa's gone, you can't come back in. You have to transfer it to a bridging B, which you can easily do. It's just a form. You get your migration agent to do it. Like you go, hey, I've got a trip coming, put in the B, you've got a B, you can travel and you're still on the bridging visa. She didn't do that, went to New Zealand just for like not even anything that important, which is the worst part because it just could have easily been, oh, I won't go.
It derailed her whole life.
Yeah, got stuck over there, couldn't come back. Had to come back on a tourist visa, which meant she wasn't allowed to work, so she couldn't work, like a whole saga. And I have heard about this from someone else as well who works at a friend's workplace. They did the same thing, like really small specialist job. They were really relying on this person. They went on just a holiday back home, went to board their business class flight that their work had paid for, denied because they don't have a visa, because they didn't even realise they were home for like a month. None of that period did they realise what they'd done until they went to board the flight, lost the business class flight. Like, oh.
No. Tragic. And this can all be prevented.
You have to do your research and you personally have to be clear about what your visa entitles you to do. You need to be the expert. Even if you're relying on someone else, check with them, ask them, prompt them.
I was going to say, you need to read it with your own eyes. If a family friend, someone tells you, even your employer, that that's the way, we are assuming we have trust issues. We don't trust anyone until we've looked at it for ourselves.
Yep. The employer doesn't have the consequences. Other people don't have the consequences. You are the one who won't be able to work.
It's this whole energy is giving, if Timmy jumped off a bridge, would you copy him? Like, just because they do that, would you?
Yeah. So that's researching your own visa. Then I think you want to research for your exact situation. Find expat groups. I know like Facebook is super old school for our Gen Z listeners, but I swear all I do on Facebook these days is groups. I love my groups. The groups that I'm in, like I could never leave Facebook because I would really miss them. I would genuinely miss them. I get so much information from my various groups.
Let's confess about 2 weird groups that we're both in. Name 2 weird groups that you're in.
Pedigo Owners Group.
What is that?
A brand of an electric bike that I just recently bought. And so I'm in the Pedigo Owners Group. And it's honestly mostly retirees talking about all their little tips and tricks for how to lift up their bike to carry it on their car.
Oh my God, weird.
Ramps is the answer.
Here's some that I'm in. Insert town name that I live in, whale and wildlife sightings.
Whale and wildlife sightings.
And Australian meteor reports. And Bioluminescence Australia. And lost and found pets, insert region that I'm from.
You're just great. Like the local news gal who's getting her news from all the different groups and you're like, maybe one of them will have a breaking story. Okay, I'm inspired now. That was just a recent one. Now I'm going to scroll through my list. Target, Kmart and Big W decor and hacks.
Oh, you're in the Kmart mums group. You're a bit, you've peaked too early.
Okay, but can we talk about not the silly ones and actually the ones that I would really like couldn't live without? Celiac disease in Australia. Oh my Lord. I am a celiac and the amount of things that I wouldn't have known about if I wasn't in that group. Recipes, new products, just incredible. And then I've joined Celiac Calgary Celiac Community. So I'm like, where's the other group in my new city?
It's an underground community.
Yep, exactly.
You all meet up and just talk about how crumbs could take you out at any point.
Yeah, basically. I'm in Aussies in Canada. I'm in IEC Working Holiday Discussion and Support, which is exactly what I'm about to talk about, which is, do you like how I segued that back? I thought that was really clever.
Okay. Pat yourself on the back.
Find the expat groups and join them, because something that I see in these groups, don't get me wrong, they've been very helpful for me, because when I'm like, hey, it's telling me to fill in this form, but it won't let me sign it. I don't understand. It's like, oh, well, it actually just means electronically when you click yes later. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Or random little things that come up. But for the most part, I read the instructions on the website and it's all been very straightforward. But the stuff that other people go in there to ask, it's the most basic ask question. And this group is one of those incredible ones that has 2 dedicated admins who will answer you within 20 minutes at all hours of the day or night. They've got pinned posts. They've got commonly asked things. They've got a file section with all these cheat sheets and whatever. All you would need to do is just search and you would find the answer to your question.
Okay, hang on. What corner of the world are Facebook admins living in? I always wonder, because you know how they rule, that they have authority. They are the admins. They will remove comments. They will post the rules. Are these regular people that are working full time? Because how does anyone have time for that? And then the groups that do the thing where they go, everybody welcome our new members. And then they tag 50 names that have just joined in the last week.
Okay, so that happens automatically, I happen to know.
Okay, I thought they were sitting down.
Yeah, you can do welcome your new members and it starts the post for you and then you just add text. But
okay, that's not as impressive.
Yeah, in case people didn't know that.
But what corner of the world are these people? Thank you, you're the backbone of society, but where do you find the time?
Shout out to Glenn James, who does the Money, Money, Money group admin pretty much all himself, which is elite. He's in there heavily moderating that group and it's incredible. It's a massive, massive group too. Yeah, I just wonder, I know the names of the admins that pop up in these groups and I'm like, wow, you're really doing a service. What would we do without you?
Yeah, thanks,
I wonder
Kelly.
if the people in their regular lives have any idea how important they are secretly.
No.
You know? It's undercover.
Someone should nominate them for a Community Neighbour Award.
Yeah. Anyway, my point is there's a lot of people who come in and go, oh, I've just submitted my thing and it's asking me for this. And people are like, did you read literally anything anywhere? Because what do you mean you're now coming here for help and you didn't know that was the case? It's basic stuff. So there's so much information out there and you can easily find out, okay, cool, this is the visa that you need to be on. Everyone always goes through this process. You need to make sure that you upload this evidence when you first do your application. You're going to have to expect to go here to do this with your passport, whatever. Find those groups and join them and they will absolutely pay off. You can go to Facebook, you can go to Reddit, you can just Google search so that random online forums come up. I'm such a lurker. I'm never posting anything, but I'm just searching inside the group for surely someone else has had this question before. You want to get a good understanding of what the options are for you. So the more specific and related to you can get, the better. So it's going to differ depending on the job that you're in, what your career options are like, the country that you're from as well. Sometimes your visa options are different depending on what country you're from, and also the exact place that you're living as well that you're going to move to. Because let's say for Rowie, if she was moving to Canberra, for example, that's actually considered regional in a lot of immigration related things. And so they have a regional migration sponsorship pathway that doesn't really exist in any of the other major cities. So you can qualify for different visas and you can get sponsored for jobs that you wouldn't be able to be sponsored in a different city. Does that kind of make sense? And I'm sure other countries have similar things.
And our hometown, we used to get all the backpackers because in order to prolong their stay in Australia, if they come and do 3 months of farm work, you can stay longer.
But did you know that that's not for people who are coming from the UK? So they automatically get that extra year of their visa versus if you're coming from a country that's not there, if you're Irish, for example, then you have to do the farm work in order to qualify for the second year of your visa. So similar thing, like Australians in Canada get 2 years of working holiday and you can't extend. It's just 2 years and that's it. It's one go at it. Whereas if you're coming from the UK to Canada, you get 1 year, but then you can apply for a second year. It's just different. It just depends on what the countries have kind of agreed and what happens. So you want to get specific to, like, if you can find Aussies in Canada, if you can find Canadians in Australia, like the more specific to you can get, the better.
Chatting to a migration agent or looking at their content could be helpful in this scenario. Have a think about that.
Because they can look at your degrees and tell you what jobs that you might be able to be sponsored for, if it's possible, what pathways there are. It's really easy for them to know versus it might take you a long time trawling through government websites. And lastly, I actually saw a post in one of these groups, so I think it was an Aussies in Canada group, of someone saying, hey, it's really hard for me to get a job. I've applied. I've been here this long. Like, I'm going to have to go home. It must be really hard here at the moment. Like, is everybody else struggling? And all the comments were, oh no, I found a job pretty much straight away. I found a job within 2 weeks. I only got here a month ago and I've already got a job. All these other people saying different stuff. And the person's like, what? I'm applying for hospitality jobs. That's what everybody in this same city is doing. How am I not getting it? And they're like, just take your resume, print it out at the library and just take your resume in person to hospitality jobs. And this person was like, oh, we wouldn't do that at home. And they'd just been applying online and waiting for them to get back to them and then never hearing back because I guess all the people walking in were getting the jobs. So this person is there thinking, oh, it's so hard to get a job here when it's actually not. So there's a few lessons there. It's go to the groups, ask people, do your research, but it's also don't necessarily listen to what other people are saying. If they say it's easy, it might not be for you. If they say it's hard, it might not be for you.
Clear as mud.
Hey, Interview Boss listeners, if the podcast just isn't doing it for you and you need way more help to prep for your next interview, we have the perfect thing for you. Interview Academy. Em, tell us all about it.
This is huge. This is the love child of Sarah after doing hundreds of one-on-one coaching sessions, finding out what people struggle with the most, common mistakes. Sarah has created the ultimate course that you can do in your own time, self-paced, heaps of modules, videos, interactive quizzes, a workbook that will become your Bible by the end that you can take with you into your interview, because if you're a long-time listener, you know that we endorse taking notes into your interview. It's a game changer.
Check out more about it at interviewboss.com.au/interview academy.
Now, it's important to remember it's going to be hard to plan all of the steps because there is an element of, there's a bit of a lack of control going on. Some things are out of your hands.
Yeah. And I think this whole process can be really hard if you're the kind of person that likes to know, what am I going to do for my whole 2 years? Like, am I going to work for the one employer? But I can't do that. But who am I going to work for? Will I get sponsored? Like all these different questions. Will I stay at the end? It's going to be very hard for you to skip to the end. So I do think just plan your first step. I'm going to enter on a working holiday visa. I'm going to get a job. And then I'm going to come up with the rest of the plan.
Don't get too far ahead of yourself.
Yeah, I just think you can't, honestly, with a lot of these types of situations.
And everything's going to be easier once you're there and you're actually involved in the system. But if you're trying to think 10 steps ahead before you've even left, tricky.
Yeah, exactly.
Another big hack, this is kind of obvious, but check out job listings. See if they actually list sponsorship being possible on there. Most of the time they won't, but it is a great shortcut if you see that a few employers are promoting it.
Mm-hmm. Maybe your job's really in demand and so they're actually putting it on their ads. Maybe in the country you're going to, everybody writes it. Who knows? But what I wanted to call out here is that in my 10 years of HR and recruitment, I've probably seen over 100 people sponsored by the various different companies that I've worked for over the years. Probably 3 of those situations was it ever like advertised and listed on the ad. So the companies that sponsor a lot of people, you're not necessarily going to find out about that publicly, if that makes sense. If the company does it and the role qualifies, you might not know about it. So you want to use research, talk to people, even just apply for stuff anyway to work out whether that's the case or not.
So like a lot of companies might not list it, but you apply, say you need it, and because you're a great candidate, they're like, hey, yeah, we're willing to do that. That's fine.
Yes, that's right. And you're not going to know whether they have no inclination or ability whatsoever, or whether they're kind of open to it when you're first applying. Like, you're just not going to know. So I would say that's a case of you don't want to be putting too much effort into each individual application, because at that point you're just seeing how things go.
Tell me about how starting as a temporary employee can be a really common pathway to sponsorship.
This is probably the most common thing that I've ever seen, is that a company who never would have considered permanently sponsoring someone at the time where they were advertising is suddenly doing that 5 months later because they've had a temp in the job and, oh, well, Emma's great. We can't lose Emma. How do we keep her? What do we need to do? Who do we have to pay? Like, how do we do this? And they will go through the hoops after they know and love Emma because she already knows the job now. We don't want to lose her and have to find someone else.
Does that imply that there's situations where you can work a little bit, or is it the amount of time that you're allowed to work for so long, but beyond that you need sponsorship so you get them on board?
Yes, that's right. And so on a working holiday visa, for example, you're allowed to work. Like, you just have your visa, your work permit already. You can work for whoever you like, but there's limits on how long. And then beyond that, you need sponsorship. Similar thing, like if you're on a student visa, often you'll be allowed to work up to a certain amount of hours per week or whatever. So finding out a way to go, okay, my pathway in is I'm going to get this visa that allows me to do it myself to get there, and I'm going to get a job first, and then I'm going to work out my next steps after that. If that's an option for you, that is definitely the best way to go about it, I think.
That's a good hack. And let's do some rapid fire tips on getting the job in the first place.
I think go for stuff that other people might not find super attractive. Short-term contract roles, temp jobs, maybe it's full-time in the office, stuff where you're maybe going to be more competitive, because if they've got lots of candidates and it's a job that everybody wants.
Go for the less glamorous stuff.
Yeah. And remember the stuff we talked about where you don't always know if the job is actually good or not by the ad. You might actually come across the most awesome opportunity by applying for that random ad that you clicked on.
We have a dark tip next, which I love. If the company or team has a really high turnover, sponsoring you gives them someone to trap who's less likely to leave. It's dark, but you could use this to your advantage.
Totally. I've seen this so much. And it's not just companies that have high turnover. It's more like the team, or like this is a really tough position to have and nobody ever wants to stay in it, but we'll sponsor you because then you'll be a little bit stuck. It's harder for you to change jobs than it is for someone else. Now, yes, that is kind of dark. How it ends up that way, who can really say? But I think, it's a win-win, really. The company's like, we really need someone to stay. And the person's like, look, I am willing to put up with it because I'm getting a benefit that a regular everyday person wouldn't be getting. Does that kind of make sense? Like, the value trade-off is actually genuinely really different for you being like, look, you guys are a bit crazy, but you're going to let me stay in this amazing country. So you can do whatever you want. I don't really care that much. And it's like, yes, they're kind of both taking advantage of each other, but yeah, it works.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
That's right. Symbiotic is a great word.
Isn't it? And whenever I say the word symbiotic, no one's going to be able to see this, but I grab both my hands and shake them. I'm like, yes, symbiotic.
Do you know what I imagine? What picture comes into your head when I say symbiotic?
The textbook from biology where there's a fish that swims next to the shark and eats the stuff. Yeah.
Yes,
is that a niche experience?
Too. I don't know where that's from. I imagine like a small fish or a small thing that like lives in the mouth of a whale, or the one that swims along and like eats the stuff off the side of one of those things. I'm sure that's the example we were given in science.
Yeah. Little fish that swim along and they eat like the algae and stuff or something. The remora. The shark and remora. The remora attaches itself to the shark and saves energy since it doesn't have to swim, and it gets to snack on the shark's kills. The shark doesn't get anything.
Oh, that's not very symbiotic.
Hang on. What?
That sounds like a bit like a parasite.
Hang on. We'll dive into biology later, but
it's the one where the little things inside the whale, they like clean
clean the tongue. Yeah.
They clean its baleen or whatever.
We're women in STEM. We love biology.
Marine biologists right now are like screaming at their headphones, being like, girls,
surely not
too
many marine biologists are listening.
Okay, who didn't want to be a marine biologist when they grew up and watched any movie about dolphins and were like, I want to be a marine biologist?
No, mermaids. Cleo. I used to want to be a marine biologist and just swim out to Mako Island every day and just investigate shit.
I'm sure there were other dolphin movies that were a bit older than that. Like that's what made me want to do it.
Aquamarine?
No, Emma, you're so much younger. You don't understand.
Okay. Back on track. Okay, so obviously you can also mention right up front that you're interested in being sponsored, but I don't recommend making it a deal breaker early on because then they might be like, well, meh, start there first and then bring it up.
Yeah. I think if they say, no, there's no way, we'll never do it, blah, 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 cool, maybe you don't want to take the job, but they don't have to be saying, yes, it's a possibility to begin with. Like, just take the job and then work it out from there.
Yes. Also, network. The great thing about being in a new country is you have an instant connection to anyone else from your same country. So true. There's that camaraderie of like, hey, fellow Aussie, what's your experience? Yeah, reach out to anyone that you can find on LinkedIn that's from your same country and that you're living in the same city. Bonus points if it's the same industry, but honestly, anything helps. Ask them for a coffee chat. Once again, the coffee chat transcends situations and conundrums. It can be applied to a wide range of scenarios.
It's like Oprah, you get a coffee chat, Everybody needs a coffee chat. And the reason that that's really helpful to chat to someone is that their company might be hiring for different roles that include something that you could do. And a boss or a company that's already sponsored someone before and they've had it work out really well, they're more likely to be like, oh yeah, it's so-and-so's friend, or it's another Irish person, or it's a
sponsorship ally, if you will.
And then you've got two Canadians in the same workplace and it's like, oh, we get how this works. Like there ends up being like little groups of people from the same country who didn't know each other back home, but they kind of find each other and then get referred or whatever. Like it's really funny how that happens. So I think absolutely try that. You won't have local market knowledge when you're applying for jobs. That is absolutely going to work against you in pretty much every industry. But with that in mind, try and find as much crossover as you can. The more relevant your experience is, the easier it is to get started. And this is going to be really hard to give as a bit of an example across industries. But like if it was HR, same industry. Like I'm going to go for an HR job in construction because I've literally just come from that. Does that kind of make sense? If it's the same type of workplace, like you're full-time in the office, same type of clients, maybe you go B2B marketing and you don't try and go B2C at the same time as a new company. And maybe it's the same type of patients. You also work in an outpatient capacity. You also work in a private hospital. You also work in a clinic. Or maybe the same type of students. You're also teaching this year group and you're specializing in maths as well. Like the more overlap you can get with what you've already done, the more competitive you will be.
Now, as always, getting the first job is the hardest. First job out of uni, first job in the new country, first job in the new industry after a career change. It will be hard, but it will get easier.
Yes, completely. You'll have local knowledge and experience and you'll have an idea of how things work. Now, our very last note is you need a backup plan. Where's your emergency parachute? What are you going to do if things don't go to plan?
You're going to beg on the street and just say, please.
And don't say that to the government on the way in.
You're going to get a knapsack and just walk on the side of it.
I haven't heard that word in my whole life, I don't think. A knapsack. And it starts with a K. Why does it start with a K?
No.
That K doesn't have any business being in that word.
It also wouldn't fit much in it and you need to find a really long stick in order for it to work.
And a handkerchief. Who has one of those anymore?
Okay, don't do that. So
is that even what a knapsack is? That's what I imagine, but I don't even know if that's what it is. Okay, a knapsack is not a backup plan. Okay. To give yourself a little bit more control, you're going to set yourself a date. If you don't have a job by then, if you're not sponsored by then, you have a date and what are you going to do? Are you going to go work in hospitality at that point? Are you going to ask your parents for money? Are you going to fly home? Like, what's the plan?
I like B.
Yeah. B, mum and dad are going to rescue you. Sure, but just have a backup plan. Now, this is another little tip that I've seen people go wrong with. And I think the first one of a backup plan makes sense. This one is a little bit less considered. Don't stay with the one employer right up until the end of your visa if they're not showing signs of actively moving towards sponsoring you. If you go right up until it's been a year and 9, 10 months and they haven't sponsored you yet, guess what? You're going to get to 2 years and you're going home and you've lost out all your other options. And I hate when companies do this to people.
They need to be upfront.
They should. And you should force them to be upfront. You should say, right, I'm leaving at the 1 year, however many months mark, so that you've got a little bit of time to maybe work somewhere for 6 months and they could potentially sponsor you. And hey, worst case scenario, they don't either. You were still going to be going home anyway. Like that was already going to be the case. You've just given yourself one more chance to stay if that's what you want. Don't run the clock down with a company that's not showing up.
Great advice. Well, that was a comprehensive guide. Lots of funny tidbits in there. Hope you learned something.
A very detail-rich episode.
Yes.
Not as vibesy as some of our others, but hey, if you're in this situation, I think you need these tips.
So good. Well, good luck out there, our expats and travellers and itchy feet listeners. Good luck.
It's not for the faint-hearted. Oh my gosh. Even just like I haven't had to deal with the jobs part because I'm working for myself. How amazing. Thanks to all you guys. But it's still not for the faint-hearted. Wow. Every day I have experiences where I'm like, this is so hard. Just everyday life stuff is just hard in a new country, even when you speak the language. If you add language on top, I don't know how people do it. They deserve a medal.
It's hard out here.
Thanks so much for listening to Interview Boss. If you like hearing the sound of our voices, follow us on Apple or Spotify, or better yet, tell someone else about the show. That's how we can hit the charts and we can help even more people. For more advice, inspiration, and some funny videos and helpful tips, check us out on Instagram at InterviewBoss and chuck us a follow. Can you believe we started Interview Boss in 2021?
Not really. It's insane. That's a lot of episodes and a lot of hours of talking.
Oh my gosh, it is. And if you're scrolling through all of our episodes, you might scroll straight past something that you really, really needed.
Yes, we're always getting messages from people asking us to do an episode on something, and I'm like, we already have.
So we've put together playlists to help you find the episodes that are exactly what you need, suited to your situation.
They're all categorized. If you're applying for jobs, we have episodes about resumes, cover letters, job ads. If you've been offered your dream job, we have episodes on resigning, exit interviews, and how to impress at your new company.
And we even have a very special playlist that's very popular for if you have an interview coming up immediately and you need just our most recommended hard-hitting episodes between now and then.
For all our last-minute listeners. It's all there for you. You can browse by category and check out all the playlists at interviewboss.com.au/podcast.